Let's get started. So welcome everybody to EGaDS Game Jam Workshop. We'll go over some things that'll help you when you're jamming this year. All right, so a brief overview of what we're actually gonna cover. We're gonna go over the brainstorming phase of your game jam. So this is how you should think about your game ideas and when you should start planning out your project. We're going to talk about how you should use GitHub with your with Unity. We're going to talk about the asset pipeline, how you're going to be creating assets and how to make that efficient and useful. We're going to be talking about WebGL, which is how you would make a browser playable version of your Unity game. And we're going to talk about submitting to itch. All right, so let's imagine it's UT Game Jam kickoff. Our amazing President Mason is giving a kickoff speech. We're getting a sponsor message from Zynga, our glorious sponsor that gives us money. And more importantly, theme reveal. One of the more important parts of the jam, and I don't know what the theme is. You think EGaDS officers come up with themes? No. You guys come up with the theme. Okay, so throw out some themes. I want to hear them all. Just give me thank you. Just give me some ideas on what a theme could be. No, Jake, we don't come up with any of the themes. Okay, spooky season, shadows, magic, underwater, jungle, not yellow. Not yellow. Wow, very specific vendetta against yellow, you know? It's like, wow. Okay. Let's just choose one from out of these. Let's go with magic. All right. So we have a theme now. Now we actually need to start making a game. So everybody, what are some game ideas we can do with the theme of magic? I guess I should move this back. Give them to me. The Gathering. Like Magic the Gathering. Okay. Actually, let me move this down. So card game. Potion making. Ooh. Oh, my handwriting is so bad. Okay, don't worry about that. MMORPG. Wizard 101, which is, I think that's pretty much an MMORPG too. Platformer, okay. All right. Okay. So now that we have these ideas, let's thin it out. So first of all, no, we're not doing an MMORPG. You cannot do an MMORPG at a jam. Well, okay, maybe you can make it work. I don't know. I don't know how crazy amazing you are at making RPGs, but I would say for the majority of 100,000 users in a weekend, get out of here, Jake. But yeah, you're not going to be able to make a massive multiplayer game in just a weekend. I mean, if you can, like, okay, why are you here? You should probably be like actually making a game. A really important thing that you think about in the brainstorming phase is scope. If you're over scoping from the very beginning, you're going to have to cut things and you're not going to be able to make the game that you want to make. Let's look at these other ideas. A card game could be really cool because the scope of that is really flexible. You can make as many cards as you need, and their flexibility can be very versatile in what kind of game you want to make. Potion making, that is a very, potion making is a really interesting idea that could lead to some cool levels. Wizard 101, Just gonna, yeah, a platformer. Also something that is feasible within 64 hours. Sorry, Richard. Okay, so let's go a little bit more specific into what you would be doing in your brainstorming phase. Okay, so for brainstorming, what I would recommend is putting aside maybe 3 or 4 hours at the very beginning of the jam just to talk about ideas, just to talk about what you want to do with this theme. And some people might think, wow, 3 to 4 hours, that's a really long time. Because during this period, you shouldn't be working on anything. I mean, you probably can be setting up project stuff, but you shouldn't be actually making assets. And that's because during this period, your ideas will probably change a lot. You can probably go through 3 to 4 iterations of the same idea within this amount of time. This period is also a really good time for your artists to decide on a consistent artistic style that they want for the game. You don't want to be going through the jam and halfway through you realize that your artists are making assets for 2 completely different games. So this is a good time to figure that out. This is also a really good time to set up your asset lists. This is every asset that you'll need to create within your jam period. These are really useful for keeping organized, and we're gonna go over them later. Coding architecture. Your programmers, if they don't work, if they start both in different directions at the beginning, it's not gonna come back together. It's just gonna keep on diverging forever, and you're gonna have just 2 people not able to combine their code in any sort of way. It's a really good chance for your coders to figure out all the stuff they would need to do. Yeah, so brainstorming, it's important. Don't just immediately start working on stuff. You need to start with brainstorming something. Okay, so GitHub. Let me get rid of this. GitHub is essential for larger teams. GitHub is it's a software that allows you to share code and assets with all of your team members. And what you're probably going to want to do before you even create your Unity project and start putting together assets is to set up your GitHub. So I'm going to go through that and actually do it with you guys. Okay, wow, so convenient. I'm already on the GitHub page. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to want to do when setting up a repository is give it a name. So Jam Workshop. Actually, I should probably put a type in there. Okay. You can make it public or private. Doesn't really matter, at least now. I'm going to add a README so I can clone it over to my folder immediately. And I'm going to add a git ignore. So what a git ignore does is it makes sure that some files within Unity aren't copied or aren't included when you make git pushes. And git pushes are kind of what updates your code. So the reason why you want to do this is because Unity creates a lot of meta files and a lot of stuff that you don't ever see. And if you don't have a git ignore, you're going to end up changing like thousands of files every time you do a git push, which makes it a lot slower, a lot messier, and a lot harder to keep track of. So when we do a add git ignore, we go to the templates, we find Unity, and we add a Unity git ignore. Choose license, that's not important. I see a question. Would it be wiser to use the Unity collab feature or just use GitHub? I've used the Unity collab feature before, and it's a little finicky. That might just be from my experience when using it, inexperience from using it. But I don't think I've, for these smaller jam projects, I don't think I've ever had a problem with GitHub specifically the way I'm going to do it. So I would probably suggest GitHub. Okay, so we're going to create the repository. Okay. So now that we have a repository with just a git ignore and a readme, this isn't really anything. Right now, it's kind of just an empty repository. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is click on this and copy this URL. Okay, so we're going to want to use GitHub's, I guess you would call it a software. GitHub Desktop, it is called. GitHub Desktop is really useful for figuring out how to use Git, because some people would use Git in command line, but for people that aren't used to programming, that's a little difficult to do. So we're going to say new repository, jam workshop. We're going to find a folder for it. Jam. Okay. Select a folder. Oh, wait, I did this wrong. We're going to want to clone a repository. Okay, my bad. We're going to want to clone the repository. Oh, is it actually? Okay. Yeah, I think I've been having this problem a little. I don't really know why. Maybe if I. Okay. Tell me if it's bad or not later. Yeah. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is clone a repository, not create a new one. When you clone a repository, you paste the URL that you copied earlier into this area, and you choose where you want to clone it to. So that's going to be the same one. Okay. So we clone it, and all right. So you probably didn't really see anything, but if you go into the folder where you cloned it to, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so you don't really see any changes. What is this application? This is called GitHub Desktop. Wait, okay, I'm a little confused because I cloned to this folder, and you would expect for the contents of that folder to now be the same as the contents here. You know what? It's probably fine. Okay, so now that you have your repository set up, we're actually going to make a new Unity project inside of this folder. So we're going to open up Unity Hub, and we're going to do new. Okay. And we're going to create it inside of the folder that we just made. Okay, and while it's doing that, I'm gonna take some questions just in case anybody's confused up to this point. So if you have any questions about GitHub, I'll try to answer them here. Has anybody ever used GitHub before?
I took a few game development classes. So I've actually technically got an associate's in game design, but I remember in all of our classes, even the professors, they didn't really know how it worked. They would just tell us to like memorize this process and then you don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much how people use it. So one person needs to make a GitHub repository. Yes, one person would start by making the GitHub repository, and then everybody else on the team would clone over that repository over to their local machine. So then you can make changes on your local machine and push it back to the main repository. And that's how the files stay up to date. Why don't you just use only the GitHub browser? Is desktop better? Okay, so for the actual desktop or actual browser thing, it's only a place to look at your files. You can't actually make any changes or commits on the website, I don't think. So it's just a way to look at what you currently have. So everyone can add and change files with just a push. It's a little bit more complicated and I'll go over it later. Right now, I just want to focus on actually setting it up. Actually, you know what? I can go back to the slides while that starts. Okay, so using GitHub with other people. The first thing that you want to remember, kind of what you guys were touching upon already, is you need to make sure that everybody knows what files they're editing and everybody else knows that they're editing that file. Because if two people work on the same file, you run the risk of having merge conflicts. And that means when you're trying to merge the two versions of that script that you've been working on, you know, one person might have deleted a variable, one person might have made a new one. You're gonna have to figure that out. And sometimes merge conflicts can be really bad, and it's just better to avoid them altogether. So that's why you really want to talk to other people and tell them what you're working on and when you're working on it. Something that you can do to kind of lessen the danger of actually having these problems is by working in separate scenes. If you have separate Unity scenes that you're working in, you have less of a potential to change something that somebody else was already working on. Also, for Unity, GitHub handles Unity scenes a little weird. Like I said before, inside Unity, a lot of files and things change without you actually seeing them. And scenes are one of those things. If someone's messing around with something in a scene, a lot of things change other than just the things that they actually moved around or something. So you almost never want two people to be editing the same scene at once. And that's why you would want to have separate scenes for separate people. And oh, wait a minute. Communication's on there twice. That must be a mistake, a typo or something. Let's just go to the next slide. Maybe they'll fix it. No, communication's there again because communication is important. If you're not communicating with your team and you get merge errors and just everything breaks, that's completely preventable. You need to talk to your teammates about what you're going to be working on and when you're going to be working on it, or else, you know, merge conflicts, and no one wants to deal with that. Okay. Very smooth with that dull communication. Okay. And some ways that you can actually make communication a little easier is the asset lists I mentioned earlier. And I think that, no, that's later. Let's check up on our Unity project. Okay, so we have an empty Unity project here now. And if we look at our file, we have all of these new project files now. And if we go into GitHub desktop, well, that is wrong. Wait, did I make it in the wrong folder? Wait a minute. Yeah, sorry guys. This is not right. Maybe. Jam motion. Oh, what the heck? Why is it there? Oh my God. Okay. It was just in a completely different folder. You know what? I'll make this work. I'll drag over the files that we just made. I'll need to close Unity first though. I'll drag over the files I just made into into there. All right. Don't do this. Make sure you have your repository in the actual right place. But oh wow, look at all those project files that were there right in the first place. Hi Brian. Yeah, we just went over some stuff with GitHub and how we're just still figuring out some stuff with some GitHub, but we'll probably upload a recording and the slides later after the workshop. So if you missed anything, you can go back and watch the recording. Okay. Okay. Oh, it's also on Twitch, yes. Okay, so now that we have all of these project files, we're gonna want to make our initial commit. So the way that you commit is, these are all the changed files. You need to give your commit a name. So I'll say init project. You can give it a description, but honestly, nobody does. And then you commit to master. So commit to master doesn't actually mean that you've pushed yet. That just means that you're saying, I want to push this. And before you can actually push it, you need to do something called fetching. So the general structure of working with Git is you commit something, you fetch. Fetch checks if there are any polls that need to be made. You pull any changes to your project, and that actually changes stuff. And those could be pushes from other people. And once your project is up to date with everybody else's, then you can push your changes. Whoa. Huh. Okay. I have no idea what that is about. Okay, well, let's just assume let's just assume Git works most of the time, and that would not happen to you. That probably has to do with something that went wrong when I just dragged a project's file into a completely different folder. Line endings. I mean, I don't care about that. Why doesn't it work? That's annoying. But I think usually if you did it in that way, it would work. Okay, so let's go on to something else. Asset pipelining. This refers to how you make your assets and put them into the game. So there are three things about asset pipelining that I want to talk about today: resolution, whiteboxing, and asset lists. When I say resolution, I mean, what resolution should your assets be? Obviously, you would say maybe the same size, usually. But you actually want to be very careful with this, because if you get this wrong, you'll have to scale stuff up and down inside of your Unity project, and it will lead to having lines that aren't consistent lengths or widths. So if you see this planet, it has really thick lines, but down here, the bomb is just kind of small, completely different line size. It's also kind of blurry. That's another thing that can happen when you're scaling down assets. And if you're working with pixel art, you can sometimes be missing pixels. And that means when Unity is rendering at a certain resolution, if you have an asset at a smaller resolution than what it's supposed to be, then Unity compresses that image and you're going to lose some of the detail on your sprites. Okay. Let's check this. No, okay. Something to help you with your resolution, with getting the right resolution, is whiteboxing. So whiteboxing means putting out white boxes, like in a 3D sense, or just like putting down blocks of sprites in the right resolution of the actual assets that you want there. So this would help you figure out how big does an asset need to be? How many pixels does an asset need to have for it to be this size inside of my project? So like these wouldn't just be objects that you scale in Unity. Those would actually be images of a certain resolution that you can just drag immediately into Unity and looking like that. Another advantage of doing whiteboxing is it allows programmers to continue working on creating levels without worrying about implementing the art assets at the moment. Because something you can do when you're whiteboxing is you can, at least in Unity, you can replace the white box sprites with the actual finished sprites, and it'll automatically replace them. And then you can slowly, one by one, fill in all the missing assets of your level. Okay, asset lists. If any of you guys recognize this, it's called Trello, and it's kind of like a bulletin board thing where you can move posts from list to list. So like in this list, it's all the tasks that are scheduled for to do. Then you can put them into a doing column, the done, and it really helps you keep track of what still needs attention and what everybody else is working on. It also takes a little bit of time to set up, and that's why you need to have that brainstorming phase. It's important. Another important reason why you would want to use this is near the end of the jam. If you're starting to run out of time and you still don't have a lot of your assets implemented, this list is really useful for seeing what you should cut. Hopefully you won't have to cut anything, but in a jam setting, you're gonna have to cut stuff. Yeah, so this is just useful for identifying what you have, what you need, and what you potentially want to not include. Okay, let's talk about WebGL. So WebGL is how Unity allows for its games to be played in a web browser. It's one of the things that you can build your project in. Wait, actually, does anybody have any questions about whiteboxing, resolution, or asset lists? Is there anything you want me to go into more detail about? Is there anything you're confused about? What can I clarify for you guys? It is called Trello. Trello. Yes. Right here. So it's free to sign up for. Actually, let me give you guys an example. Oh, okay. Never mind. I guess I need to be signed in for that. Do you make the white boxes in Unity or in Photoshop? So in Unity, you can't actually make art assets. You can only like take existing ones that you put in and scale it and move it around. So you would be making any white boxes that you need in a art program outside of Unity, and then importing them into Unity and placing them wherever you need to put them. Yeah, it is just putting placeholder white boxes to represent where real assets go. For whiteboxing, do we just play around with the white box sizes until it fits the size we want in game? Yeah. So the idea of whiteboxing is that the idea is you would be able to replace the white boxes that you have in your level with the actual asset, and you want to have to change anything else. So you want the size to roughly match what you want the real assets to have. Like you would put if you were to have like a box collider on an object that you're whiteboxing, you wouldn't want, if you don't actually want the game object to have a box collider, but you're giving it a box collider just because the white box itself is a box, you should be doing whatever collider that better fits on your real asset. Okay. So we make unique white boxes for each asset. We don't just scale them. Yeah, because if you scale them, let me give an example. Okay, I'll create an empty game object and I'll add a sprite component. Sprite render. I'll make a default sprite of a square and I'll put it on that sprite render. Okay. And I also need a separate image to import. Let me find one. Sure. Okay. So, say I want a square to be about this size, right? But I scaled it to get it to that area. But then if I replace it with this new sprite, oh wow, that's a big boy. It's going to be slightly, it's still going to have that scale to it. So the original picture is a lot flatter. And even though I put in the new sprite, now it still retains that same scale. Yeah, thick frog. Okay, so yeah, so you don't want to just be scaling, you don't want to be scaling objects in Unity. You can scale your sketches in Photoshop to fit within the white boxes that you made. But in Unity, you want to make sure that the scale stuff is always consistent. So when you're importing new sprites, they don't get scaled in a way you don't want. Okay, that's right. That is not working. Okay. If that was working, we would have seen changes to the scene that I was working in and the frog asset that I added in. But it's not, so we don't worry about that yet. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about some of the specifics of WebGL. Okay, so some quirks about WebGL. It only takes in player input from the keyboard and the mouse. You can't use controllers for it. You can't use like motion controls. I don't know. Since this would be working on a website and it would be downloading your game, smaller projects will load a lot faster than if you had like a massive amount of code. You probably won't. So like most of your projects will be okay to be used with WebGL. It's just a small side note. Player settings. So that refers to when you go to File, when you do Build Settings, opens this window, and it refers to this right here. I should probably tell you guys how to switch over to the WebGL build. So the default for most Unity projects when you're building is for PC, Mac, or Linux. If you don't want that, what you would do is you would go into the build settings here, you would click on WebGL, and you would click switch platform. So now this project will be built for WebGL. What's the difference between PC, Mac, Linux, and WebGL? So WebGL can be played in your browser. The PC, Mac, and Linux builds, you'll have to actually download the zip file and extract all the files so that you can play them. Evan Kotor up, it asks, I should just put these on screen. Is the WebGL suggested because of the remote game jam? And yes, it definitely is. Your game is much more likely to be played if you have a WebGL version, because honestly, who wants to download a bunch of files and then extract them? You're gonna get a lot more plays if you have a WebGL version. Will each submission be in WebGL form? So if you want to have a WebGL build on your H page, I will show you how to do it. I'm going to show you guys how to do that later. Okay, so now we've switched over to building on WebGL. I'm not sure what this does, but when I tried it out, it wouldn't work until I checked it. So I'm gonna leave that checked for now. Let's go into player settings. Okay, so in player settings, you can change a lot of interesting things. You can change company name if you want to. You can change the name of the actual game. You can put what version you want. That's probably not going to be important during the jam. You can give it an icon. So that just means as a file, that's the picture it's going to have. Default cursor, yeah. What's important here is setting the resolution. So this will decide what resolution your game on the website will be in. And this is important because if you're working with UI or just random camera stuff, this will affect what your final game looks like. Splash page, that's not really important. Yeah, so some of the more subtle stuff you can find in here. I would suggest looking at it on your own a little if you're more interested in that. Okay, so we don't really have anything in this project, but let's go ahead and build and run. I will make a build folder. And this takes forever, so let's move on for now. Okay, so these are some resources that I used to make this workshop. These slides will be up after the workshop in the EGaDS server and the Jam server. So if you need these, I'll be posting them. 4:3 ratio game. Honestly, my computer screen's in a really weird ratio. I don't even know what it is. Yeah, so this takes forever. So I'll take some more questions. Questions from anything I've done up until now. Free game. I'll go back to those slides. What's tvOS? I don't know what that is. Build setting. What tools do you recommend for a computer that doesn't have a lot of RAM or CPU? Okay, so I would say if your computer can't run Unity, I think Game Maker is a lot lighter. If your computer can run Unity, it's a pretty good option. And if you're a programmer, that would also mean Visual Studio is a pretty good option. Visual Studio 2019, I think that's the most recent one that works with Unity. tvOS. Oh, okay. That is weird. They have an OS specifically for running stuff on the TV. Oh man, I'm gonna become a solo tvOS tvOS developer. Oh boy, I'm gonna rake in the big bucks. It's just like, wow. Oh, you're a developer. Any more questions? We're just waiting on this build right now. It takes forever. Oh, okay. So how many of you guys are first-time jammers? Oh, geez. Oh, geez. A lot of people. Okay, so what was my first time game jam experience like? Stressful. Definitely stressful. Yeah. If I were to choose one word, it would be stressful. But also, I would also say, even though our game ended up being a little bit of a mess, it was really fun. And I enjoyed pretty much all of it. I learned more than I did like from all of my previous solo deving experiences during that one jam. And like some of my second jam experiences, they were just like a lot. They were crazy. If you're working with somebody that that knows a little bit more about Unity than you learn really, really quickly from them, with them. It's a really good experience if you're looking to just strengthen your experience, strengthen your skills. Okay. Have you found that there's an optimal audio format to work with in Unity? I'm not really an audio guy. I have heard though that wave audio formats are a little inflexible. So it's like, it's kind of hard to alter them very much within editor, but I'm not really sure. You would have to ask some of the other EGaDS audio officers. I would recommend Grant if you've ever seen him. He's the one with the frog profile picture. Man, a lot of people first-time jammers. That's a good thing though, because we want people getting those new experiences. Even if you don't necessarily like love game jamming right off the bat, like you're gonna be, yeah, online experience. That's gonna be interesting. We've definitely been planning for a really long time to we've been planning for a really long time for an online jam. So I think nothing disastrous will happen. It's just, yeah. Oh, the build's done. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the game runs. Cool. If you could actually like do anything, this would be working. Okay. Getting rid of that, I think there was another. Oh, how much do you sleep during gym? Okay. I try to get as much sleep as I can, a good amount of sleep, because I don't work well when I'm tired. So it's kind of like an investment. If I sleep now, I'm going to be able to get more work done later. Okay, so the last thing we said we would go over is submitting to itch.io. So that's the next thing that I'll do. A lot of the EGaDS officers have several games under their belts. So they have, if you're looking for advice or some pointers, you can definitely reach out to any of the officers and we'll be able to push you in a direction where you can learn stuff. So I personally do programming and art. So if you need any good pointers for those two, I can help you out. Okay, so let's go over to the itch page. So if you want to create, if you want to submit a game onto an itch page, the first thing that you need to do is create a new project. Okay. And specifically, if you want to create a game that can be played in the browser, you want to go to kind of projects and click on HTML. The next thing that you want to do is upload your project files. Oh yeah, I forgot that. Okay. Okay. So we go to where we had the build and we shove that all. Actually, I want to be careful. We shove that all into a zip file. So we send it to a zip folder. So web build. And then we upload it to the website. This is, you can change the dimensions of the game here. We should probably make the dimensions a little larger so we can get, we can see more of the Froggy Boy instead of just, you know, one part of it. I'll go with something random. And once your file is uploaded, you want to choose this file will be played in the browser on that file. Okay. After all of that, nothing else really matters. So let's save and view the page. Okay, so once you've done all of that, let's go. See, now I can check up on my Froggy Boy whenever I want. Oh yeah, you guys want the link? Oh wait, it's not a published. Yeah, so on your project thing, if you don't publish your project, only you can look at it. So you want to make sure before you actually submit your final build, you want to make sure that you make it a public project. Okay. All right. Now I'll show you guys how to actually submit a project to a jam. who do you guys think would want to see a who do you guys think would benefit from a frog? Unearth. Magical girl. Oh. Okay. So something you can do is once you join a jam, you'll have this button. You'll be able to go through don't worry about that one. You'll be able to go through a list of all your projects. You can choose one. You'll probably have some fields that you can fill out just for like specific jam stuff. They'll probably ask you a question like this. I don't know if we specifically have too many questions that you'll have to fill in, but yeah, so you choose a project, you fill in these, and then you submit. Is there any way to give credit to our team members? Yes. So I believe only one person can actually have the project on their itch account, but you can make it so that projects say that they were developed by multiple people. So that one. I believe it's admins. So if your other team members have itch accounts, you can put their usernames here. And once it shows up here, let me actually see it. Okay, no. You'll be able to see who's an admin, and you'll also be able to list people as contributors. So they'll be on the actual page. Their username will show up when it says created by people. That I actually did something like that for a game I worked on called Hellfiler. So this is not on my jam. This is not on my itch account. But if you want to give credit, obviously having a credits thing on your itch page is definitely a good way. I think. I don't know where I can actually look at the created by thing. Maybe it's because I'm in developer view, but yeah, that is how you would give credit to your roommates. if you can go to more information, you can see the authors. Where's more information? Here. Okay. Yeah. So even though this project isn't on my actual H account, I'm still listed as one of the creators. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much all we have to go over. If you have any more questions, definitely ask them. We are finishing about an hour early, which is something that most of our workshops do. We slot 2 hours and we leave a little bit of time at the end for people to ask questions or just to, talk. Yeah, these slides will go up after the workshop along with a recording. So if you have anybody who wanted to come but couldn't, you can share those with them. Any advice for people who don't have experience in anything? Some kind of vague advice that I can give, maybe not like, I guess it is advice that you can act on immediately. It's to try everything. If you don't know what you're interested in, you won't know until you actually try something in that field. So if you don't have experience in anything, just try stuff. Start drawing, start trying to make a C# script, try messing around in some kind of audio program. Where can I find these recordings again? We're gonna be posting them to our YouTube channel, and you'll also be able to look at our Twitch for any VODs. I believe that, yeah, all of our VODs for past workshops and past Twitch events will be on our Twitch. So after this workshop, those will be up. How do we upload the files on desktop GitHub to the browser to share them with our team? Okay, let me try again. Let me try the GitHub stuff again, because I want to actually show you guys something that worked, okay. So I will clone a repository. And then I need to choose a new folder. Workshops. Hopefully this works. So I select that folder to clone this repository into. So if I go to that folder now, should have a, okay, so it should have a Git and a README. That's exactly what we wanted. And now if I go into Unity and try to create a new project, we go into the folder that we just made, and we go down to the same place that the Git stuff is. We select that folder, create, and hopefully it actually works. Yeah, so do you guys have any other ideas or questions of what jamming's like? Will we be randomly assigned to a team by Wednesday if we aren't already part of one? I believe so. I think right now, officers are working on forming teams with anybody who is currently looking for a team. If you're not, then we don't put you in a team But by Wednesday, I think that's when we're shooting for. Yes. What sort of merge errors do you have to look out for with a Unity project? Because it's not just simple code. Do you suggest using branch things and then merge into master for the final game? Okay, so I'm not that experienced with using forks and branches, but in my experience, we haven't really had to do that. It's just if you're careful about what files you're editing, you'll probably not get a merge error. Yeah, honestly, that's the most detailed advice I can give you, because how rigorous is a game jam usually? It really depends. It kind of depends completely on how much effort you're willing to put into it, because you kind of decide how long you're there with your team. Obviously, if you want to be a good team member, you're there for as long as your team needs you. But like, if that doesn't work out, and then like, if you can't, if something comes up, that's obviously okay too. So I would say it's as rigorous as you make it out to be. When will team mentors be announced? Is it also Wednesday? I believe it is pretty much around where it's definitely going to be before the jam starts. But I don't think we are completely set to announce that. How do you make your editor magenta? Why is it magenta? You go into editor, preferences, and then colors. So you can change a bunch of stuff here. I personally made my background pink just because if there were any cracks in between like some tiling stuff that I want to do, I want to be able to see it very clearly. So I made it one of the most obnoxious colors I could find. Also, when I have it in play mode, I give my editor this blue tint. So I'm very aware of when it's in play mode. And that's important because I don't want to be editing stuff in play mode because it doesn't save. Okay, wait. Okay, let's try this again. I have all these new files from making a Unity project in here. I'm going to make the initial commit. That's the same error I was getting last time. Any more questions while we wait for this to probably fail? How many of you guys are on campus? Oh boy. Oh boy. In time but not on campus. Oh man, that's a concerning amount of people. No. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why that's happening. Okay, I think I know how I might be able to fix that. I'll go into not that. There may be a thing with the git config. Okay. Yeah, no problem, Richard. Glad you came. I saw a bug report looking at that, right? Yeah, I'm really not sure what's going on here. If I figure it out afterwards, I'll add a note to the slides, probably. Do you have any advice for traditional artists transitioning into game/digital art? So when I first started doing digital, I had never done it before. What's important to kind of learn in digital is watching other people draw, watching people who are more experienced than you draw, because there are a lot of techniques that you'll probably miss if you aren't looking at any other sources. Some really weird stuff that doesn't seem that intuitive, but are definitely really useful. Okay. Let me see if I can figure out this Git stuff. See you, Rodrigo. Glad you came back. Are there any topics that you feel that are important to cover? I mean, if I wanted to go in deeper into some like hard skill stuff, like programming or art, I would probably do them in separate workshops because they take a while to go over. But there are workshops that happen over the year, over the school year. So if you are interested in stuff like making state machines in C#, learning about event triggers, learning about animation, then you should come to some of the other workshops that we have planned. What tools would you recommend for this game jam? Oh, okay. One tool that I find really useful is called Piskel. This one. So it's a pixel art animation program. So if I wanted, I find it really useful just because, you know, animation programs are hard to use, but this one is very, very simple. If I want to make, what should I do? Oh, frog. Yeah. If you have little to no experience with animation, this is a good place to start. It's a lot less complicated than most animation programs that you'll find in like Photoshop or I don't actually know that many animation programs. But if I wanted to move, actually I need to make it green. If I want to make a move, then I would maybe duplicate that thing, that screen. I'll just shift. The most threatening enemy in the game. You can change frame rates over here. Yep. So if you want to learn more about this program, I would do some independent research on it. It's really easy to use. I bet you could make something decent with it after like 1 day of research. And considering that we don't have much time when we're jamming, you're likely to be using pixel graphics. So this is a really good option.